Hi, my name is Julio Viskovich, the Vice President of Marketing at rFactr. We are a social selling and social sales enablement solution bringing B2B social selling to the theater near you. Today I'm here and I'm very excited to have this guest, Mario Martinez Jr. from PGI, someone who I've looked up to in the social selling space and someone who's been there at the ground level and from the early days till now. So I'm really happy to have somebody with such a breadth of experience. Mario, how you doing?
Julio, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me, and thanks for the compliment on looking up to me. I look up to you as just as much as you to me, so thanks very much.
For sure, for sure. So a couple of questions for you. I want to put you on the hot seat today and ask you a few things regarding social selling, and I want to kind of draw on some of your experience in the past and hopefully give some of our listeners a taste of what it's like to have had a foot in social selling since day one. So Mario, quick question. I've seen something a while back, and that post that I seen a while back was your score in the LinkedIn Social Selling Index, and at the time it was 99. You want to talk to me a little bit about how you had a social selling index score of 99?
Yeah, LinkedIn Social Selling SSI score, the Social Selling Index, 99 out of 100. I was so pumped, man, when I saw that I had a 99 out of 100. I mean, it was, I think LinkedIn told me I represented the 0.02% of the world's population on LinkedIn. So it was phenomenal. It was great. And I was like, oh man, I achieved a plateau that now the next milestone was 100 out of 100, right? And I think your question was, tell me a little bit about that and how I did that. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Jeez. To be honest with you, 1,000% honest with you, I had no idea that it hit 99 until LinkedIn told me that I hit 99. And the SSI score actually was not something that as a social seller and or a social sales leader that I actually began to track until I hit that 99 out of 100 score. I knew that I was in that 90 range. I had inquired a couple times, and I really wasn't watching and tracking to that. And then when it finally happened, which was sometime earlier this year, it finally hit 99, then I really started saying, all right, what are the things that I did that helped contribute to a 99 out of 100 SSI score? And lucky for me, LinkedIn decided that they were going to change the algorithm on how they calculated SSI to make it harder. So anybody who had a super high score, like mine, 99 out of 100, it dropped. And when it dropped, I think it ended up down about 84, if I'm not mistaken, 82 or 84 out of 100. So they definitely changed the algorithm. They made it a lot harder to be able to achieve a higher level score. So now I've worked myself back up into 96 out of 100, but I was at a 99 out of 100 for sure. So it's been pretty cool to be able to watch all the things that trigger an SSI score or higher SSI score and the growth of that, because obviously those trigger points are things that you should be doing anyways as a social seller.
Well, that's awesome. Well, let's switch gears a little bit. You as a sales leader, I mean, this is an interesting question. I mean, methodologies are in place. Traditional selling has been happening for quite some time. What made you realize that sales truly was being disrupted and social selling and social media needed to fit into the sales process?
So I'll tell you, the honest truth was probably about 10 years ago, I think it was, maybe 8 years ago. I forget the time frame, a while ago. I was working for one other company, and I got an opportunity to go and meet with LinkedIn directly for a role at LinkedIn. And they didn't actually hire me, and there's actually a funny joke because one of the folks that I used to work with here at PGI, they used to sell to us, that sales leader, we joked last year at LinkedIn Sales Connect that, hey man, yeah, you remember that year that you didn't hire me? But when I went there and I actually started this interview process and really started to peel the onion back and understand what was this LinkedIn thing all about, I began to take a lot of time to look at A, research of information and people, and B, really starting to focus in on how can I leverage this information to be able to get to the people that we were trying to sell to. Back then, we were selling to the IT line of business, so it was ultra critical to kind of be where the people are at like the old school days of selling. So a lot of the things that we learned as we grew up selling, we grew up understanding and learning that, you needed to be at the networking events, you needed to be shaking people's hands, you needed to be at where they were at and understand some of their pains and challenges and the things that they were interested in talking about. Well, that form for a big portion began to be fundamentally shifted towards social media and online. And so I really started to understand, man, as I was going through that interview process with LinkedIn, that this is where people are at, and I could actually listen to my buyers' viewpoints, issues, concerns, questions, likes or dislikes through social media and build a relationship that way. I was all in, 100% game. And it reminded me a lot of maybe the old school days. You may remember when you were going into people's offices. Back then people had offices and you didn't have these open floor spaces and whatnot. And you'd walk in and right in their, I'm looking for a picture here, actually here's right in, as soon as you walk into someone's office, you see one of these little pictures, right? And oftentimes it's a picture of their family, or it could be a picture of, them holding the big fish on the wall, or, that they, caught something big. And you immediately started out with, oh, where were you at when you took that picture? Or tell me the story about that, to build that relationship. And when I realized the power of what social media, specifically at that time LinkedIn, could bring to my sales efforts, it was a no-brainer. And that's really when I started to leverage those mediums to be able to gather insight and information about folks. Did that answer your question?
It does, and that's a great analogy. I think, thinking about it is nothing's really changed. There's just a new way of doing things, right? It's still that same office going in and seeing what's on their desk and picking something to have a conversation about. I really love that. Great analogy, Mario.
Thanks.
So talking about people, right? I mean, LinkedIn, we're connecting, we're engaging. Do you or have you changed the way you select people in your hiring process, or when you imagine who's going to be fitting into a sales team with modern selling techniques catered to the modern buyer? Is there anything different you look at in somebody from a skill set?
Absolutely, 100%. It's funny, I work with a number of different recruiters for different positions that we're hiring for within my organization. And when a sales rep is coming to my office, one of the things that recruiters tell them is, look, this guy is super hot to trot on social selling. You need to understand what social selling is. Use the buzzword social selling. Make sure that you're doing all the things related to social selling, or at least that you recognize that you are deficient in that area and that you specify, this is something that I want to learn from you as a leader and I can improve on. So it's kind of funny because now, as sales reps come into my office and I interview them, these are the exact things that I'm hearing. So, but one of the things that I look for specifically when meeting with a salesperson is I go immediately to their LinkedIn profile and then look for them on Twitter. So those are the first two things that I do. And what I'm looking for on LinkedIn as a sales leader is not the resume. What I'm looking for is are you speaking to your buyers? Is your profile a buyer-centric profile that is readily available, easily accessible, and understandable to your potential targeted audience? Now, 9 times out of 10, because social selling is relatively new, most folks haven't adopted the use of social media in the form of being able to find the right people, to engage with insights and build strong relationships. All they're doing right now with it is research, and that's what they think the extent of social selling is. So 9 times out of 10, I'll find that that individual has not built a buyer-centric profile, which tells me immediately what level they're at from a social selling capability standpoint. That's not a no. That's not a no-go for me whatsoever. It's, do you understand what you need to do to be able to change or adapt to the new needs of your buyer, and or how the buyers are speaking to you today as opposed to the old days, right? The old days of knocking on doors and asking for John Smith, the VP of such and such, almost are completely gone. You can barely get into our building alone here at PGI in San Francisco. So, yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at those things. I'm actually utilizing tools like LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and I mentioned Twitter already, to actually take a look and deep dive on that person's information. Who are the latest folks that they've connected with? Do they understand how to build a professional brand? How large is their network? And do they have any recent posts, either self-created, curated, and or at least even liked or shared in the last 30 days? And if they do, is it more than just a handful or two? right? Are they active on social media? And so every once in a while I find those folks that have definitely utilized it in the right way, but for the most part, we're not quite all the way there yet in the marketplace.
Wow, yeah, times have certainly changed, and I mean that's a whole new and different way of looking at a salesperson coming in the door. And you know, that kind of reminds me how much we're still in an immature market, right? Where we still haven't had teams develop that type of skill set yet. And I think that's why I want to ask you this next question is, you know, can you look in the crystal ball a little bit, Mario, and tell us what you see happening in the next, you know, year in social selling? What's coming next, and where are we headed?
Yeah, gotcha. Well, a couple things. It's funny. I was literally, Julio, just talking about this in my office less than an hour ago with a bunch of the sales folks on the floor. And someone asked me, or maybe I offered, I'm not sure. Someone either asked me or I made the statement. I don't know how it came up. But I said, in my opinion, in 2 to 3 years, the social selling practice will be saturated. And all the sales reps looked at me and they were like, no way. Hardly anybody knows how to do this and what to do. And I said, well, no, not necessarily that it'll be saturated, that sales reps don't know how to learn, or that sales reps won't need to learn it, and or that everybody's learned it, that you know, what's the next greatest thing. But it's that buyers are going to become somewhat savvy to understanding that sales reps are using this information to be able to understand their personal persona or their business persona, and that you may begin to see people to be more reserved on social media. The flip side, however, is buyers also can't afford not to do that because they want to be able to be that brand for their company, and they also need to be able to be on social media to be able to get that search engine optimization, to be able to be recognized as a brand, as an individual, and they want to be able to publish, they want to be able to show content, and they want to be able to build themselves up for the next opportunity. So, you know, it's kind of funny. I mean, we had this discussion. Can I predict where social selling will be in 2 to 3 years or even 5 years? I don't think so, but I do have this perspective that buyers are going to start holding back information, and then the question then becomes is where will they put information out at, and how will you be able to tap into that? And I think that's going to be the next wave, is trying to find new mediums. But where I will tell you, in my opinion, with 100% certainty, without a doubt, in the next few years, what absolutely will become one of the largest things that folks will be focusing on, from Fortune 100s all the way down to the small-sized businesses, is what's the impact of two things, employee advocacy and customer advocacy. And how can I leverage my employees who, let's just pretend I'm an employee of rFactr and I'm working for you. I've got a network of, say, 7,000 Twitter followers and 4,000 LinkedIn followers. That's 11,000 people that in most cases you don't have the same level of relationship with and or following, that my tweet or my LinkedIn post can hit those 11,000 people faster than you could by having paid for advertisements. And so the power of my network and people who trust me or follow me or like what I'm pushing or are engaged with me somehow, some way, the power of amplifying a message, whether it be brand, whether it be personal, corporate brand, personal brand, or whether it be messaging related to product or thought leadership, is absolutely powerful when you think of a company, say a Fortune 100, that takes 40,000 plus employees and amplifies their messaging, their brand, a new product launch, an announcement, times 40,000 employees, each with an average of 500 people in their network. That is tremendous, absolutely tremendous amplification that you just can't get in paid-for advertisement and or any other medium that you're looking to do from a marketing perspective. So I think that'll be one of the things that takes off in an astronomical way. And then the other thing is customer advocacy. The best folks that can speak is not only your employees, because people trust your employees more than, in some statistics they show, more than even the CEO talking themselves, and that was a recent study that was recently done, but is really the customer. Your customer can make you or break you. And if you are in an industry where you are having challenges or problems, and all there is bad news about your product, service, or organization, you can almost kiss it goodbye, because those are the types of things that go viral. But if you can bring together all of these, your customer base, and allow them to talk for you and speak for you in a form that you can encourage them to be able to become brand ambassadors or product ambassadors, that's, again, the reach of their customer, of their message, tweet, LinkedIn message, status message, whatever, the reach of them to the types of buyers that you're looking to continue to sell to is very, very large. And so I think those are the two areas that will absolutely take off, and that'll be pretty hot spaces to watch come the next 2 to 5 years.
There you have it. Figure out a way to activate your employees and figure out a way to activate your customers. I think that's two great pieces of advice. And Mario, thank you very much for sharing your insights with us today. And just wanted to see if you could let everybody know where they could get a hold of you, learn more about you, and learn more about PGI.
Absolutely. You can look me up on LinkedIn, Mario Martinez Jr. You can go visit my personal website, m3junior.com. And then, of course, PGI.com. I'm the RVP of Sales here at PGI in the West. I handle all of our sales and customer satisfaction here for the West area, so happy to discuss anything collaboration related with you. And so PGI.com, or look me up on LinkedIn or Twitter, and I'll definitely respond back to you most likely within a couple hours.
Great. Thank you again, Mario, and thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful day.
All right, Julio. Thanks so much for having me, man.